Well, another beautiful morning in Abuja, the Nigerian capital. Welcome once more to the conference. My name, as always, is Nwabuoze Njoko. This morning, I have my friends, and we are a little sober because the issue we are going to discuss is not the one for hyper excitement. It's one that requires methodical, careful, but sincere and honest consideration. Let me start from my right. On my right is Dr. Obinna Nwachukwu. Dr. Obinna Nwachukwu, well, he's a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, but he is also the managing director of Montage Africa Media Limited, who are the publishers of New National Star. They also run a TV and a radio business. Dr. Obinna, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for having me. Thank you, audience.
And my immediate left, Alpha Jagdeen, the gentleman I always refer to as public relations guru, deep-seated, very informed journalist, and a cool-minded analyst on issues that confront our polity. Alpha, you're welcome to the program.
My sincere honor, sir. Thank you so much for once more an opportunity to be here.
Well, Anjezan is sitting a little far from me today. Maybe he doesn't want, last time he was here, I asked him whether he had become a Navy officer because he was in Navy blue. Today he's elected to be in white. Maybe he's joining the Air Force. I do not know. Anjezani, thoroughbred journalist, an establishment gentleman, a product of University of Lagos. I'm very proud to say that. Andy, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Chief. Good morning, everybody, and welcome.
Gentlemen, the issue we are tackling this morning, as I said, requires considerable sobriety. The Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest in Abuja that grounded the city on the 20th of October, led by Omoyele Sowore, activist. Some people say busybody, but every activist is a busybody, who is saying that Nnamdi Kanu should be released from detention where he's been since 2021. This case is before a law court. So, the media could be accused of venturing into a matter that ought to be handled exclusively by the courts. So we could be held for matter that is sub judice. But because of the issues raised by that protest, and following, if you don't mind, from our last conversation here, when we raised the matter of presidential pardon and the powers of the president, I decided that we should bring it up for a sober conversation. And Dr. Obinna, I want to start with you. The topic is whether that protest was avoidable. Can we go back to the genesis? Maybe if you start from there, we might arrive at answer to the question whether that demonstration was necessary or could have been avoided. Allow me to recount, if you don't mind. Nnamdi Kanu is the leader of the Independent People of Biafra Movement, IPOB, a separatist pressure group or agitation group that has not been operating clandestinely. It has not been operating in the shadows. It has stated its case before the Nigerian state and has continued its demonstrations openly and peacefully. Today, IPOB, that was a peaceful demonstrating protesting group, is outlawed, is proscribed, and in media language today it is described as against the Nigerian state, involved in armed struggle. Reports by the police, reports from the police, reports from the military, reports from security operations give us information of clashes between operatives of IPOB and security forces. How did what was an open, not in the shadow, peaceful group pleading a position, right or wrong, become an armed group now, creating conflict, confrontation, near battle with the security forces? How did IPOB transform to that?
Chief, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity of being here again. Like you said in your introductory remark, the matter is already in court, and we will not want to be accused of discussing matters that are in court. But then it does not also stop us from expressing our constitutional freedom of speech and freedom of expression. The issue we ask ourselves, without really justifying whether what Nana Kalu did was right or wrong, which is the subject matter in court. But then we will need to ask ourselves what led to him doing what he did. The whole thing boils down to the marginalization, the well-known marginalization of the East. Not even the East, maybe let me say the Igbos. Because what we used to know in those days as South East or Eastern region, what we used to know in those days as Eastern region is no longer what it is today. Part of that region is now in South-South. So let's say the Southeast or the Igbos in particular. It was an issue of marginalization. And all over the world, people have the right to say, I am being oppressed, I am being marginalized. People have the right to cry out. People have the right to say, look, I need to be heard. I must be heard. I believe that if what the federal government promised, because shortly after the Civil War, because if you also remember, it was also this issue that partly led to the Civil War. And after the Civil War, there were promises, that up to today were not met. A good many of them are still outstanding. If the federal government had listened to them and addressed those issues, maybe there wouldn't have been Nnamdi Kanu and there wouldn't have been IPOB, excuse me. But these are youths that felt they are being oppressed, they are being suppressed, their voices are not being heard, and then they had no other option than to cry out. That's on one side. The other side is, even though Nnamdi Kanu is imprisoned, but then what he was calling for, his demands, have they died? No. The issues he raised, have they been solved? No. They are still there. Everybody knows that since the advent of this democracy, the Southeast have been at the receiving end of whatever that comes from federal government. And that's why sometimes I wonder when some of them that were elected, in quote, as governors, decide to say they are joining the party at the center, they want to bring federal presence. We'll start wondering what really they were up to. The fact, like you said, is the matter is in court, but then there is always a political solution to every issue. And I think that the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest, led by social rights activists and journalists, publisher of Sahara reporters, and former presidential candidate Shore, I didn't see anything wrong with it. One, they did not carry arms. They were not violent, to the best of my knowledge. And we always hear this issue of, protests were infiltrated. I'm not sure this one was infiltrated by any hoodlum. It's just that the powers that be doesn't want anybody to mention Nnamdi Kanu. And then some people also in the southeast, some politicians who are looking for crumbs to get, and some businessmen who want to be getting contracts and all that don't want him to be released. So I can say it was a calculated attempt to make sure that anything about him is not hard.
Okay.
But then it cannot end there, because even those in government today, we remember Occupy Nigeria during Goodluck Jonathan era. And most of the people in government today benefited from that siege on the country, which we call Occupy Nigeria. So I don't see anything wrong with what they did. But I feel that the way it was handled by the police, acting on directives from above or where, wasn't properly done. And that is not how to, it is not how to address concerns of citizens.
Okay. Alpha.
Yes, sir.
I'm still dwelling on how what began as a group of people which Dr. Bina says were expressing a constitutional right to protest, and they were doing so known internationally as doing so peacefully. How suddenly did they become subject of armed confrontation, then became proscribed? How did that progression occur? Do you have an idea?
It's sad that we got there. We cannot discuss this issue in isolation. You remember before the killing of Mohammed Yusuf that eventually metamorphosed into what Boko Haram is today. The truth of the matter is that the agitation was peaceful. But sadly, a few people, probably acting on wrong intelligence, decided to take a position that has brought us to where we are today. The conflict in the north is Hydra-headed. Looking at where IPOP is now, if we are to trace the history, it is something very similar. The bottom line is that the right to agitate, the right to bargain, the right to say I wish to be part of this or I don't want to be part of this, the right to say please you are not treating me fairly, is a fundamental human right. But the bottom line is, how does the state always react? Nigeria is not quite new to demonstrations. In your opening remark, or in his opening remark, he made mention of Occupy Nigeria. And a lot of those in power today are beneficiaries of Occupy Nigeria. It eventually led to a party that was in power for close to 16 years, losing to the opposition. The long and short of it is we're where we are today. And hence, the fact that we are where we are today does not in any way brought any good development or benefit to the nation called Nigeria. Now the idea is whether these agitations are right or wrong should have been allowed to time to say. Your question really is, the demonstration that took place on the 20th, was it avoidable? Was it preventable? It was very avoidable. Indeed, it was most preventable. And that is why if we begin to dig deeper, we may try to see or locate certain factors that may be responsible for where we are today. You know, let's not mince words. Who was the leader of that demonstration? Showore. Showore is an activist, yes. He is a journalist, yes. But he is also being seen as an opposition figure. And hence, a lot of people are of the opinion that probably government even sponsored this demonstration. That is one of the things that is being bandied out there. Because some are of the opinion that Showore could have actually been acting on the part of government. But of course, because of his activism, because of who he is, people may not look at it that way. Because let's not forget, that day, activities in Abuja was largely disrupted, most especially within the Wuse area. And if you go to the 3-arm zone, you couldn't even pass.
Within the city center?
Yes, because literally everywhere was cordoned. Let's not forget there were 3 demonstrations that day. There was one for, there was one against, and there was also another agitation commemorating the NSAS protests that fell on that day. So many were of the opinion, why did you decide to host or hold this protest when we should be commemorating the NSAS anniversary that ended up not too well, even though till tomorrow there have been facts and figures, there has been counter and pro, happenstances surrounding that, what have you. And hence, in my opinion, as I did say, it was very preventable, because you must not through and through always seek legal interpretation to all factors.
Okay, Andy, I began by saying that IPOB started as a peaceful separatist agitation group. Dr. Obina says they were agitating and protesting over marginalization, certain promises made at the end of the Civil War have not been redeemed up to today. Let me give us some facts. IPOB kept demonstrating consistently, and mark the name, and let us be sincere, the name of that group is Independent People of Biafra. The moment that word Biafra entered the name of that group, it resurrected the corpse of the Civil War. And the standing effigy was like the painted devil that frightens the baby. Shakespeare says, the eye of childhood that feared the painted devil. The moment the effigy of Biafra was kept standing in the name of IPOB, naturally there was fear to the child. And the reaction of the state was to meet that peaceful agitation with maximum coercive power. Now, was it that reaction by the state, was it analytical enough? Forget about the provisions of the Constitution, right to protest. These are bandied every day. In our last meeting on this program, we talked about thinking deep before an action is taken. In reacting to IPOB using coercive force, was that an action that was thought through?
Well, thank you very much, Chief. You know, the truths that we consistently confront in Nigeria, and most of the time we don't want to own up to it, is that there is a deficit in governance, a deficit in the thought system in governance, a deficit in leadership, thinking to some certain level. And a whole lot of wrong had been done in the society by the leadership that is actually not probably very reflective about where the system, where the society was coming from and where it intends to go. When you find the state that finds itself in a situation where it probably sees a situation that is already volatile, and he believes that the solution is actually to pour fuel on top of it, all about probably proving a certain right or proving that the state is mature, you begin to wonder about the quality of leadership that we have had in this country. You talked about, once you mentioned the name of Biafra, that it was likely going to trigger off some alarm or some danger. So why should it be so? Why should the state find this? Why should the leadership of a nation actually be at that situation where what is going to enable that leadership, what is going to push that state to actually, throw fire all over the place is because you had the name of a Biafra that the war had been fought how many years ago, and we have moved on beyond that. Is that where do you want to go from there? What do you want to achieve? What actually is your plan about this state? Whether you have the right to the southeast, the Igbos or the rest or any part of the country or not, the fact is that a leadership that is properly grounded owes an obligation to itself and to the country to think more about trying to enhance a certain sense of belonging and a certain level of peace in the society, that you can, there are certain things you overlook. What has happened with IPOB? They may opt it today. The government that is inside the ditch is still digging in. But the truth of the matter is that the states and the leadership in Nigeria have not done the country any good at all. This is completely avoidable. This doesn't make any sense at all. It brings no benefit to the states. It brings no benefit to anybody. Now let me tell you, the IPOB thing, as we said, there are a whole lot, majority of the people in the southeast living with the IPOB, we are going on the business and they ignore the boys who we are really actually protesting and walking on the street and the rest of them. People didn't actually make anything out of them. It wasn't as if anybody was subscribing to them and joining the queue or whatever. You could allow them to be marching on the street as long as they wanted. It didn't make any sense to anybody. Whether they say they were Biafra or whether they say they were Carthage or whether they say they were anything, frankly speaking, that wasn't any reason for any leadership that was sensible to put themselves and put the nation where we are today. And look at what we are doing. Every day, I arrest you today, I release you today, I put you in court today. What actually is the benefit of anybody in this? There's a point in which you look at Nigeria and you say, this place is so jinxed that you have people who are leadership who obviously seems to be out completely to make sure that there is no peace in the place. There is no sense in what is going on now. There is no benefit to anybody. Let me assume that tomorrow or next tomorrow, at the end of all these things, you take them, they cannot confirm and you jail him. So what now? It doesn't prove, it doesn't solve any problem. So you look at the leadership sometimes and you just begin to wonder. Even if you have campus politics and things like that, people should do better. I don't see any sense in what is going on now. I don't see any benefit. Even the way it is even still being handled up to this moment leaves you aghast. You are like, what actually does anybody want? What is this all about? You don't see any sense in what is happening. So when we begin to discuss, would it have been handled better for them to protest on 28th or for them to do? That is actually discussing something that is actually of no value for me. The major issue is that this government, this state, ought to find how to get itself completely out of this mess that it keeps throwing itself into and face serious issues of development. We are not really addressing issues.
Andy, I must sympathize with you. Your name is Andy Ezani. You are Igbo.
Yes.
So in this conversation, in this golf game, you are handicapped. You are handicapped in perception because they say, oh, he's speaking like this because he's an Igbo man. Let me tell you why it is in that way. Dr. Binna.
Yes, sir.
At a point, IPOB launched ESN. ESN claimed to be extension of the struggle, now an armed struggle. That created two challenges. One is that IPOB now ventured in the area of security, national security. Two, it ventured into the area of confronting the Nigerian state. If we say that the Nigerian state did not think through its own action of using coercion on what was an expression of constitutional right to protest, was IPOB within any reasonable action and rights to leave his agitation and delve into the undermining of security with armed struggle?
Yeah, Chief, let me answer you. Straight, no. The IPOB doesn't have the right and shouldn't have, taken to arms. But then sometimes that's what we call defensive mechanism. When you are pushed to the wall, most times, you may want to defend yourself. Even in the north, in Plateau and other places, we even hear somebody like respected General T.Y. Danjuma on several occasions asking people to defend themselves against the armed marauder, the bandits, or whatever you call them, but we know they are terrorists. And those people are more ferocious, more deadly than the ESN you mentioned. So I think the ESN came about when the state actors, including the state governors in Imo State and other eastern states, we are now going after these people and giving them what they call deadly blow, eliminating some of them. But then, let me take you a bit back. Before IPOB, there was MASOP.
There was MASOP.
Movement for the Actualization of Sovereign State of Biafra, led by Wazirike. That was no violence. But then, they pursued that man, dealt with him, and at the end of the day, they had to also become violent. Because they say it's only a tree that we hear that is going to be killed and it still stand there. If an ordinary cock will run, goat will run. So even a dog, if a dog notices you want to kill him, he will want to attack you. So I think that's to let you know that what is happening to IPOB today was almost what happened to MASOP. Everything was done to decimate them. But then, when you now balance it with what happens in other parts of the country, like I said, Boko Haram, we don't need to go back to history. We know what they have done and what they are still doing, and the way, if I may say, they are being treated with kid gloves.
Let me just. I insist on intervention there because they behave somehow, and the state has matched that behavior with equivalent, if not higher violence.
I agree.
Thank you.
But some of them are being granted a state pardon. Some of them are being rehabilitated and then even reintegrated into the society. Today, few minutes before we came in here, I was watching a video in one of the platforms. A wedding, a bandit's daughter wedded in Katsina, and the bandits came armed and were giving red carpet reception. I think the video is trending everywhere. I even saw some people there wearing police uniform, even clearing road for them to pass. Those ones, are they no more deadly than ESN? We remember the, is this Sunday Boho, who went as far as hosting Izodudua flag or whatever in Ibadan, which is, that one is not secession. Is that one more heinous crime than Nnamdi Kanu and others that were maybe protesting? But where is Igbo today? The elders of the Yoruba nation appealed and brought him back. And today I think he's walking about free. So, I mean, if you have children, if you're a president of Nigeria, everybody is your child. It's just like in your house. You must treat them equally. But when you don't treat them equally, some of them may agitate, may protest. I am not saying, get me right, like I said, ESN, it was wrong for them to have taken arms. But I think there was also a reason why they did that. And maybe if there's what they call causative factors. I think it was the causative factors that led to that. I have no holding brief for them. But like I said earlier, there is nothing that doesn't have a political solution. We had expected when President Tinubu came in, I mean, as a way of embracing the Southeast and then dousing the tension, he would have granted him state pardon. And then people also expected the one that happened recently, where even some murderers, drug barons, people with questionable characters that were jailed were granted pardon. Why wasn't Nnamdi Kanu granted that pardon? If he had been granted that pardon, I don't think Shura and others will have
They have gone to and then grounding the economy of
President
Abuja.
Tinubu had the opportunity to have written his name in gold.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I don't know why he has not done it.
Okay.
But it is not yet late for him to do that.
It's not yet late, he says, for him to have done that. Jagdeen.
Yes, sir.
I want to come to you from the point of comparative behavior. Here in this country, the Fulani National Movement had declared openly that they were not interested in being part of Nigeria. I have handled that matter once on that program on this station. He just alluded to Sunday Igboho, who also wanted the Oduduwa Republic. And he spoke about thinking things through, leadership, thinking issues through. For leaders of a Nigerian state, these signals, no matter how flippant anybody may say those mouthing them are, should never be an indication to the Nigerian leadership that there's a need to rethink, remodel, change the direction of conversation. Instead of this every day, they tell us United Nigeria. Do you unite Nigeria by speaking United Nigeria?
Well, thank you so much for that question. There are quite a number of things you brought, but let me just try to put things in perspective. You know, when General T.Y. Danjuma came out to say people of the Middle Belt extraction should defend themselves, it's simply because he is a retired general. He rose to the rank of a former chief of army staff. He believes that the state was not doing enough to protect these people.
Danjuma is on record to have said that elements in the military were in fact complicit
Colluding. That was
in the
word
killing.
used.
Thank you.
Very good. I mean, it's there and it's on record. It's there for all to see. But you know, there was also something you talked about. The Fulani extraction coming out to say they don't want
It's called, that group is called the Fulani National Movement.
Well, to be very honest with you, I cannot in all sincerity say I have come across that position. I cannot. I mean, all intents and purposes, I cannot say I have seen that. But you know, the bottom line really is that, to answer your question, Nigeria is a heterogeneous society. The thing about marginalization is as open as factors that are hidden in plain sight. When you say you are marginalized, are you politically marginalized? Are you economically marginalized? Are you socially marginalized? You see, this marginalization question, it's a potpourri of sorts. It's wide, is as large as the entity today known as Nigeria. In other parts of the world, we celebrate the unity of people due to their heterogeneity. In fact, their heterogeneity makes
It's an asset
to them. But in our own here, it seems to be pulling us apart. Why? Because of the elitist notion to who is marginalized and who is not marginalized. Chief, between you and I, we know where the problem is. It's an elitist position. I have discussed this with you in private. We have discussed this outside this place. If you look at the Nigerian situation, the Igbo man, the Hausa man, the Yoruba man, the so-called
ordinary,
the true Nigerians. I call them the true Nigerians. They are the real Nigerians. You go to villages, you go to hamlets, you go to nooks and crannies of this country, they are there carrying on their business unmolested. They are in the north, they are in the south, they are in the east. But you see, when something goes wrong from the political
elite,
that is when you begin to hear, no, this one is from here, this man is from here, this man is from here. That really, in my opinion, sir, I grew up in a country where I didn't see this marginalization play out. No. But suddenly in the last 25, 30 years,
It has become a matter of national conversation.
Even, I mean, after the Civil War, the country looked as though it healed real fast. Those of us that grew up north here, we had Igbos, we had Ishikiri people, we had Yorubas, we had everybody as friends, as neighbors. We Christians and Muslims were living side by side. On Salah Day, I can assure you, your Muslim neighbors don't need to cook in their houses. And so on Christmas Day, people were falling over each other to bring gifts and to bring food. But all of a sudden, something went wrong. I don't really admire any Nigerian leader today, because it's like the more you try to bring this country together, there are people that are doing all they can, probably because certain things are not reaching them, to make sure they distract you. Sir, this is my position. Keeping Nnamdi Kanu in jail is a distractive measure on the part of government. On the part of the political elite. That is it. That is why they are keeping
now, and just before we go to that, because I also want us to discuss how he got there. And I will not run away from our interrogating the legal disposition to all that. But first, Jagdin said he cannot remember the Fulani National Movement. I'm sure you can remember the Igboho Declaration of Oduduwa Republic. You have heard Nnamdi Kanu, IPOB wanting, they have not declared, but they insist that they want their own Biafra Republic. And I asked him the question, for a national leadership over time that is experiencing these pull aparts, and that is desirous of a united single citizenship progressive Nigerian nation, should this not begin a conversation within the political elite, within national institutions like NIPS, to begin to help the political leadership not just to hear and understand, but create methods and strategies to address them?
You know, the truth of the matter, as I believe, is that I don't think the leadership of the country over time actually have shown the tendency to actually control or to bring down some of these tendencies that actually, go towards separation. I don't think they have had it. There's neither capacity nor inclination, to address this. I say that because when you have people who are agitating, when you have people who are, none of them, frankly speaking, I have not seen any of the areas in Nigeria where people have taken arms really to want to separate. The main issue we are discussing today is IPOB. They did not take arms. When people have done that, even if you call Igbo and said he foisted the flag or whatever, they did not take arms. And so it's something that I think the government actually could have engaged. The government could have actually, when you set up National Orientation Agency, it is not by coming to sing national anthem every day and things like that. There are better things I think they ought to be doing.
Right.
You reach out to people, you discuss these things, and you take tangible steps in terms of addressing those things. Jadu talked about, yes, the ordinary Nigerians are relating and carrying on. The ordinary Nigerians don't determine nothing. The political elite determines the resources. They are in charge of where you stay in the bureaucracy, in the institutions of the state. And they are the people who have made sure that you have all manner of skilled allocation of these resources. If you create a system that is objective, where people go to public service and they pass their promotion exams and they do whatever and they are properly presented, you are going to douse a lot of this tension. So it is not all about the common people. It is all about the political elite and the leadership. And the leadership consistently have not shown the capacity or the inclination to actually have peace for the nation. What happened about IPOB? We will not run away from it. It was substantially caused by General Buhari. You didn't need to go to that extent to do this. Like I said, a lot of people were ignoring them. But you could also have reached out and have other mechanisms before this thing actually escalated to that. Now today, every day you come to the television, you tell us we are one nation, and then we are going. For God's own sake, that is just our irritation. You don't need to tell me we are one nation. You behave and act we are one nation by the things you do. When you make your appointments, when you reach out to people, the perception of what you are doing and the actuality of what you are doing, tell people that you are one nation and you are creating that. You do not say something that is contradicted by your action. So the situation we have had in the country, frankly speaking, it is not rocket science. I do believe that the sincerity is not there by the leadership. If the sincerity is there, these things can be addressed. What is very unfortunate, just like he said, is that if you go back the years after the Nigerian Civil War and everything, both through reading and through history and whatever, I think Nigeria fared better, far better. What we are having today actually is a creation of the last less than 15 years that it has gotten this bad. It wasn't like this before. And some people are responsible for that. And so we must have to own up to it. It is not a question of the propaganda we carry on or the things we come and say every day or whatever it is. The handling of the structures of the state, the administration of the state and the rest of them actually trigger off all these centripetal, tendencies that are actually, the problem we have today. Somebody is responsible. Some people are responsible by what they do. Are they interested in addressing it? And so, getting us in a situation of no peace, no war, maybe some people are benefiting from it. But
I do not know about the benefit, Dr. Obinna. I don't know about the benefit, but Andy has raised a very critical matter.
Yeah, I raised it earlier. I said some people are benefiting from the
Again, I don't know who's going to raise a benefit. Yeah. But listen to this. It took somebody to say, go shoot them.
Yeah.
It then means that it took somebody who didn't know any better managing that situation to take that action. Now, let us go to that stage that an action was taken. Nnamdi Kanu was on bail in the first instance. And the Nigerian state says he jumped bail and he ran away. Nnamdi Kanu says, I did not jump bail. I was in my father's house and the Nigerian state
came after me,
came with the military to kill me. Now I'm going to draw from Andy's line of conversation. It took an authority, it took an institution, it took a thought process to say, go and invade his father's house. What does that tell you about the quality of leadership, Dr. Obinna?
Yeah, Chief, there is this thing, a common African proverb. They said, if you are pursuing your child, or even your wife, and
why must you pursue your wife?
I'm coming.
I'm asking you, why must you pursue your wife?
You know, I'm a traditional chief. So, and he or she runs to the back of somebody and holds that person. Automatically, you're not supposed to beat that child or touch that person. You know it's true.
Yeah, it is true.
It's like, this person is okay, don't worry, I'll handle this matter. Nnamdi Kanu was granted bail. And some people signed guarantees for him. I said, if he is not there, we'll present ourselves. Why didn't the state go after those people? Why did they go after his life? He's still on bail. He is still on bail. And to the best of my knowledge, I can't recollect him jumping bail while he was still in the country. The case was adjourned before the next date of the court. They went after his life and he has to run. Like I said earlier, it's only a tree that we hear that is being felled and we just stand. And I think that's how these things escalated. And if I also refer to what I said before, even when there was mass up, that was also how they wanted to eliminate the life of that young
man. Let us put it how they wanted to introduce violence.
Introduce violence, fine, into that issue. But then, I don't think that the state did well. It was not. Something led to him, escaping out of the country. And the way and manner he was brought was not good.
Okay, now,
but sir,
yes.
There's something I want to say.
Please.
It's unfortunate he's late today. If not, former President Yar'Adua, honestly, I would have asked him to come back and rule Nigeria. You know why? See what he did to the militants in the Niger Delta. How he was able to resolve it, came up with the amnesty program, and peace was restored.
There was some thought process into it. And that is
fine. So why is it that those that came after him couldn't apply the same thing to the southeast and other sections of the country that are agitating for one demand or the other?
It's a common refrain. It's a common refrain we have in political science that everything rises or falls with leadership.
Yeah.
That is the summary.
Yes. So why couldn't they adopt that same system?
You know where.
Okay, Jardine, go ahead. But I still come with you with another issue.
We're at such a very good point, taking a cue from what they just both said. You see, the amnesty program. Let's not forget, Obasanjo actually started it, but of course,
completed,
actualized it.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, what am I trying to say in essence? Let's not forget that once upon a time, all we had about this country is devolution of powers, devolution of powers, devolution of powers. But when OBJ came, and there was this sense of spread of appointments, that thing died down.
Yeah,
definitely.
That thing died down.
You're right.
You understand? When Yar'Adua came, he went along that line. Even Jonathan,
yeah.
But when Buhari came, the whole thing changed. And please, let me put this on record. Anytime I make reference to the true Nigerian who is scattered and spread around this country, I make reference to these people because they are in the majority.
They're on this country. I want to agree with you.
Agreed, the minority call the shots. But these true Nigerians are in the majority. Democracy is all about numbers, on the one hand. Democracy is not all about government of the people, for the people, by the people. No. Democracy is also about conflict resolution. If we are to go back to our books as political scientists. So as people, we need to give each other that sense of spread, that sense of camaraderie, that sense of oneness. That is what will make Nigeria.
Exactly. But what Andy was saying was that to achieve that, the leadership.
It takes leadership.
Thank you very much.
Leadership.
But please, I'm still coming back to you on a different matter.
Yes, sir.
We are talking about Nnamdi Kanu having to escape, and Dr. Obinna trying to say even higher was brought in, and I stopped him. Let me tell you why I stopped him. A court in Nigeria at a P court level has ruled that Nnamdi Kanu was brought into Nigeria and brought before his lordship through an illegal process. And therefore, that case cannot be sustained, because you cannot place something on nothing and expect it to stand.
Yeah.
That is the ruling of a court
of competent jurisdiction
in this country. Yeah. Now, why I raise this matter is coming back to leadership. Why is it that the political leadership is finding it difficult to respect the judicial leadership?
The bottom line is that if you look at what is happening in the judiciary, a lot of people will tell you that what is ongoing in that arm of government is lackluster. The executive calls the shots. Literally everything starts and ends with the executive. That is why, as far as Mr. President's desk is concerned, that is where it starts and that is where it ends. He should be able to take responsibility for wrongs. He should be able to take accolades for rights. He should be a leader who is one that is akin to listen to the voice.
Yeah, no, Jagdeen. My challenge here is, why is it that the political leadership seems to even be intolerant of judicial pronouncement.
It will be. I will share a thought with you.
How does it work?
Well,
Why should it work?
The whole idea is, Chief, the whole idea is this. I'm trying to put it in perspective. He who calls the shots.
What shots? What pipe is he in? What is he dictating?
If I may ask you,
Yes.
can you say today that we have independent judiciary?
No, the point that is exactly the point.
that is where it is.
That's what he's
The
saying.
judiciary is not independent.
That
If
is
they are at the
what Jagdeen is saying.
purpose of the executive,
That's what Jagdeen is
the
saying.
executive can decide
And
not to
please help
obey
us
the
whether
matter.
a court in Nigeria takes a position
Yeah.
and the executive keeps going round and round it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And I asked Jagdeen, and he gives me a concept of leadership, a presidential leadership. Can you help me out? Does this presidential leadership dissolve legislature, dissolve the judiciary?
Chief, I wish I could help you out, but I'm not sure whether I can, because the truth of the matter is that is where the failure of the society is today. It is impunity. It is the rise of impunity.
Yeah.
And we have all pointed at it. We are all playing pretense. We have the three arms of government, right? In theory, that is what we say. But we know that we have collapsed the three into
We have only one arm
into
of
one.
government.
You know that is the truth. How has it come to this? We must go back to the last, like we said, a dozen years or 12 years or whatever it is, from the day that Buhari came and took over from Jonathan. That is the truth of the matter we must face. Everything in terms of the independence of the arms of government have all been going down. At what point do we resuscitate this and get them vibrant again? I do not know, because the prospects before us are not looking that very bright.
I'm going to end this conversation by asking you to I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
Because now we're in this conversation with our current president.
Yes.
Is there anything the president can do to help the situation?
There is so much one individual can do. There is a lot that this president can do. There is a lot in terms of a pronouncement made today, a commitment made today, a certain behavior shown today. If we say that every other arm of government has collapsed into the executive and he is actually the person sitting there, that means he has enormous power to make difference in the country. If the key word there is if he wants to.
It takes the courage of one to change the course of history. And he has all it takes within his purview today to do that. The whole idea is that, let's go back to 1979. How many of them are alive today? Most of them are gone. Maybe except for Jim Wogodo and one other person. Right? Someday they will look for all of us in this room.
And we'll be here.
It will be a prayer, may their memories continually be a blessing. But let's not forget that for you to rest in peace, you must have accomplished.
He must act now. Dr. Binna.
Chief, I will point about 3 things. One, today we are celebrating defections. Remember, there is a substituting federal high court judgment against defections, particularly in the legislature.
That's right.
But the ruling government that should implement that decision is celebrating defections. There is a case instituted by President Tinubu on local government funds, which Supreme Court gave judgment. Some time ago when we came here, that matter came up. Has it been implemented? Which state government today is implementing it? A case instituted by the president himself, and we're quiet about it.
And he is quiet about it.
When the state of emergency was declared in River State, PDP, 10 state governments, whether PDP or other state governments, went to court challenging the power of the president to remove a democratically elected governor. That case was never mentioned in the Supreme Court until the emergency rule was removed. Last week Monday, in my back page column, I wrote a column. I said, Fubra, when judiciary goes to sleep, and I wrote about that. I was happy yesterday or day before yesterday, the case was not mentioned in the Supreme Court after the action had been completed and whatever happened had happened. It's still under the same government. You want me to say no?
Okay.
They said he was able to go with clean hands. The fact is that right now, legislature, judiciary, executive, like they said, is one. And they like what China today wrote in Things Fall Apart, they now bring one big basin of bowl of fufu, and they all sit round. And
when thing goes, I say, you also here?
Fine. So the chairman sits and decide who gets what. And if you want to get, then you keep quiet. And that's why we're gradually drifting to one state party.
Well, the prognosis are not enchanting. They're not exciting. But, Jagdeen, when we met last time, you said there's hope for the country. Do you still have that hope?
I am one Nigerian that have and cannot give up on the country.
That's hope. So
because the country I have.
Yes. He says the outlook, we can still have hope. But I am not very much excited about his earlier statement that the other arms have been collapsed into one authority. I do not believe so. I think the other arms can also cast the chains off their feet and declare their independence, because it is in our collective interest. The issue this morning has been the protest, Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest. Was it avoidable? From all contributions, yes, it was avoidable. From the progression of IPOB to the point it became now anti-state with arms, to the point that Nnamdi Kanu was abducted in Kenya and brought back, and the court said that was wrong, to the impunity of the establishment not to respect the court. Instead, they keep recycling case and after case and bringing in new charges and discovering new offenses. That all these do not make for a healthy, orderly, socially beloved society. It creates tensions. And use the expression, it energizes centripetal forces. I think we need a Nigerian nation that is an umbrella country for the black man. It requires deeper thinking, and those deeper thoughts should begin from thinking for the nation. That's a summary of our conversation this morning. Let me thank Dr. Obinna Nwachukwu for coming to the program. Dr. Obinna, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let me also thank Alpha Jagdeen, my good friend on the plateau.
Thank you so much for having me, sir.
And Andy Zani, who moves from naval officer to Air Force officer. Andy, thank you very much for coming to the program.
Thank you very much, Chief. My pleasure.
My name is Mwabos Njoko. Let me thank you for investing your time with us this morning. Have a great day, and bye-bye.